Hi, so today I thought I would do a short review of a book that is something which is very special to me, and it happens to be this very lovely book here, which I'm extremely proud to be part of, and it is called Diabolica Britannica, a Dark Isles horror companion. Okay, and what is very special about this is not the fact that I'm in it, that's just obviously a bonus for me. Something which I'm very proud of, but all of the profits from this, we've only made it as an ebook, $2.99, all of the profits go to the NHS charities. We started it way back in March time, with an idea that the profits would all go to COVID and COVID research, and we decided that it should go to the NHS as a whole, with hopefully money going into researching for COVID and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to talk about it a little bit. Okay, so I've made some notes, so excuse me if you see me looking down, because I couldn't remember exactly what I wanted to say about all of them because my memory's not that good. Okay, and also excuse me if my iPad keeps pinging because it scares the care day and I keep getting messages about it being live on YouTube and things. Okay, so we start off with a foreword by Ramsey Campbell, the horror legend Ramsey Campbell, and we were honoured for him to be part of it as well. And he wrote what I think is one of the best forewords that I've ever seen in this kind of thing, where he took his time to break down and give a little perfect synopsis of each of our stories and praised it as well. And some of the words that he said about mine will stay with me forever, and it's given me a lot of confidence in my writing, so thank you, Ramsey, for that. Okay, so I hope I pronounced these things right. We start off with a beautiful story called Carrick Simpson by Catherine McCarthy, who is a fantastic writer. So I've described this as a gorgeous folklore tale with beautiful prose that includes a moral. But it's genuinely disturbing with a very frightening concept. So when I had heard that this was to do with folklore, it didn't go in the direction that I thought at all, and there was some very frightening imagery within it, and I thought that Catherine just wrote it fantastically, and it was a perfect way to start off the anthology. But as I said, we've got 14 different writers in this book, 7 male, 7 female. We ended up being very lucky to have Adam Neville and Tim Levin, so 2 British horror legends, join us, just to have a bit of a pull for people who weren't necessarily going to purchase an anthology, even if it was for charity, if they didn't know any of the writers. But I'm not going to talk about Adam and Tim's books because their names speak for themselves. You know they're going to be outstanding. Okay. Next up was my personal favourite. Now, don't let that get in the way of the fact that every single story in this anthology is fantastic, very different. But when we were at the stage, when we were at the conception stage thinking about this, when Christopher came up with the idea that he wanted to write his particular story about a ghost hunt in London, which I've been on. I have done lots of ghost hunts and I absolutely love anything like that. The story itself, I thought I'm going to enjoy this, and it was my favourite of all of them. And so I've written a London ghost tour with echoes of Jack the Ripper and Spring Hill Jack, a great build-up with a perfect ending. I loved it. That's all I can say about that one. It was just brilliant. I absolutely loved it. Next is one of the authors who I'd heard of before all of this, because she's got quite a few books out, and she does tend to write gothic horror, and it's The Secret of Westport Fell by Beverly Lee. Again, this was a really good story. You can tell that she is an established writer. So what I've put about this is it's gothic horror with lots of intrigue, using beautiful language. There's immersive scenery, and it used my favourite word in the whole of the anthology. I am a writer, so therefore I have favourite words. The word betwixt. If you can write a story with the word betwixt in it, then it's a thumbs up from me. Okay, next was a story which I was lucky enough to read beforehand, had a little bit of input in for one one of the other newer writers, such as myself. This is a story called The Conductor by Arthur M. Harper. The first thing I remember thinking when I read this story was it would make a perfect episode of The Twilight Zone. It's got that real creepiness to it. So I've put very Twilight Zone, great use of language, genuinely creepy. What happens in the end is like, shit, I hope that never happens in real life. With some awesome imagery used. There's a couple of scenes in it where the language that Arthur uses, considering he's a newer writer, is just fantastic. And it's just, it gives you this image and you're like, wow, yeah, just perfect. Okay. The next story is a little one called Footsteps. I believe it probably uses the most amount of bad language and could be equal on gore with a couple of the other ones, but yeah, that's by me, so I'm not going to talk about it. The next story is The Flow by Tim Lubben. Again, I don't need to say anything about Tim because you know the story will be fantastic. Next is We Plough the Fields and Scatter by Stephanie Ellis. Now, I'm going to say something about this story, and I hope that to me, it's a compliment, and I just hope that Stephanie would take it the same way, but I've said it made me think of an episode of Midsomer Murders, but way more gruesome and gory. And I mean that in the nicest way. It's just, if you've read it, then you might understand what I mean. And I grew up with Midsomer Murders. I love all that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed it. And it was the kind of village that you would find on a programme like that, where things are not all that they seem, and then something really awful happens at the end. Brilliant, I really enjoyed that one. Okay, next was Linger by John F. Leonard. Okay, this was like basically a mini novel all of itself, and you could say that with some of these stories they were worth the $2.99 alone because they were so long, and the way that they were split up into it had chapters in it. It was fantastic. Okay, I've put that it was really well written, it was creepy and used immersive language and imagery. Again, there's a couple of scenes in that and you just thought, what the hell is going on? Like, really creepy, really good. Next is Song of the Moor by Alison Fay. This is basically treasure hunting, geocaching going wrong, and you know, anything that involves a moor is quite frankly terrifying to start with. Have you seen Hound of the Baskervilles? You know, that kind of thing. And I would definitely not want to have met the creature that's in there. It was creepy as hell. So I put great use of prose and a really good build up. It could have gone several ways, and the way that it went and the way that it finished was, yeah, perfect. Okay. And then we've got a few more. I mean, they were all fantastic. Okay, so Keith Baird put this together. This was his brains, his beauty, his baby, and his story, Walked a Pale Horse on Celtic Frost. I nearly got that completely wrong. I absolutely loved it. I've put it felt almost Poe or M.R. James in style. Had a fabulous ending and doesn't shy away from a bit of blood. I've read a couple of Keith's things, and yeah, he likes a bit of blood, same as me, so it didn't disappoint. But the way I've put that it had that Poe feeling to it, again, massive compliment obviously, it just the language, and again you can tell that Keith is a long time skilled writer. Fantastic. Next we had one which I would happily never ever read again, The Hole by Sarah J. Budd. Now I must preface that by saying it's a fantastic story and she is way talented, but it was just horrible, and absolutely a horrible story, and it was the only one of all of them which left me kind of like with a lump in my throat at the end. So I've put, it's awful, it left me feeling empty. And as I say, I'm not saying it was a rubbish story, I'm just saying that it made me feel really like I wanted to cry. It reminded me just a little bit of a book I read at school called I'm the King of the Castle, and I can't think for the life of me who wrote it. It's a very famous person, someone like Susan Hill. I can't even think who it was. Anyway, and there's this bit in it, there's a scene in that towards the end, because there's a lot of bullying involved, and there's a scene in that which as a teenager broke my heart, and if I read it now as a mother I'd probably just be in pieces. But that's how that story left me. So Sarah, you were the one who left me feeling the most bereft at the end of the story. Next is another one which I got to read beforehand and absolutely loved, Scripted in Shadows by Morgan K. Tanner. Morgan and I are on the same wavelength because this one was steeped in gore and I absolutely loved it. It was such a cool concept of a book that makes you do stuff basically without giving too much away. So I put I loved it, such a cool idea, lots of blood and gore, and it was a quick paced adventure and it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Okay, then the last of the I'm going to say non-famous writers is The Coven by Sarah E. England. Sorry. I had an idea of how this story was going to go just from the title, and I was wrong, which I always enjoy. So it is, of course, being called The Coven. There is witchcraft in it, and I kept trying to guess the ending and got it completely wrong. So I really enjoyed that as well. And then we round off the book with Adam Neville, Call the Name, and which is basically a mini novella all of itself. Again, I don't need to tell you how good that is because it's Adam Neville, and everything Adam Neville writes is amazing because he is one of the best horror writers anywhere, let alone just in Britain. So we are very, very lucky to have had him be part of it. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Tim, Adam and Ramsey Campbell for helping our anthology get a bit more notice. I'd like to say a big thank you to Julia, who was our proofreader, and without it we wouldn't have been able to put it all together so professionally. Thank you to Keith for even coming up with the idea, inviting me to be part of it. Massive thank you to Catherine and Arthur for reading mine, giving me feedback and just the confidence, and just everybody involved in this is a dear friend to me now. I'm lucky enough to be in another TOC, the Graveyard Smash from Candisha with Beverly and Catherine, and they are all amazing people, and they're all, if they haven't already gone far within their writing careers, you know, there are a few of us who are just starting out, but everyone in there should go far. They deserve to. Okay, I will put a link down below. How professional was that? A link down below, because I still don't know how to do all the click here stuff. Probably never will do, but I will put a link in the comments for the Amazon link so that you can buy it. And then I just want to finish off with a couple of quick shout outs. Hopefully somebody is still watching me waffle on. Okay, so my very first shout out will be to someone who I absolutely adore because she is one of the nicest humans around. A very lovely lady called Lou Yardley, and Lou sent me a wonderful package this week full of amazing things, including this. Look at that fella, isn't he gorgeous? This book called The Deal Maker. And then a ton of goodies, which she didn't have to and was so kind. There were badges and stickers and bookmarks and a lovely little thing here and all sorts of stuff, and she signed it because she is gorgeous and wonderful. And so I want everybody to go and make sure that they check out Lou Yardley, find her on Twitter, on YouTube and everywhere, and just buy her books because she is another up-and-coming female writer who does not shy away from some blood and guts and gore. Okay, she also has a Patreon page where she's been writing a book called Banished, and if you pledged before a certain time you could be a character in her book. I mean, how amazing is that? And my husband's one of her patrons, and he pledged for me to be a character, so I will be a character in her new book Banished, and hopefully she'll do all sorts of awful things to me. And then my second shout out is just also a plug for me, but I've got an interview up on my blog today over at Gillian's Ghost Stories with an amazing person who I absolutely adore, Cameron Cheney, and he has the Library Macabre booktube show, which everybody probably already knows about, but if you don't know, he's also a writer, and I have read a couple of his things recently and he just broke my heart. Yes, it is horror and there are monsters and whatnot involved in it, but it is so beautifully written and heartfelt, much like Sarah Budd's story. It just left me bereft afterwards. So if you didn't know that Cameron, along with his amazing YouTube series, does also write, make sure you check him out on Amazon and look out for his book, including his bigger book, Autumn Crow, which has got some fantastic and amazing stuff in it as well. And I interviewed him today. That's where I was going with that. So check out my interview with him over on my blog, where we talk about all sorts of stuff, including how much he loves R.L. Stine. And I mean, who doesn't? I've got some of my point horror stuff up here. And that's about it. So thank you, everybody. I hope this didn't bore you too much. The main purpose of it was a promotion for our amazing book, Diabolica Britannica, and a couple of shout outs to some of my favourite people this week. So thank you. Bye.